you say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
So today we want to talk about kind of our biggest thing we think about all the time. And no.
Deep breath in.
So with Dee, or Dottie as we call her.
She calls herself Dee.
Hey Dottie, who's Dee? Yeah, that's right. And who am I?
Daddy.
Daddy. And who's she?
Mommy.
Who's that? And who's he?
Daddy.
Is that Teddy? Okay. Drum roll. Well, not a drum roll. So the thing that we're thinking about all the time is a line infection.
What is a line infection?
Line infection is an infection in our central line. Hey, Megan, what's the line infection?
So, a line infection is basically a blood infection. And since blood runs through her central line, that means that the infection is in her central line. And what happens is some infections can be cleared up easily and it's not a big deal, but some infections are, what did they call them? Sticky, and they actually stick to the walls of the line because it's a foreign body. It's not her body. It's a foreign
It's a plastic
object.
tube, so it sticks to the tube, so it's sticky and sticks to the tube. Sorry.
And then as the antibiotics go through get into the central line, they can't always wash away that infection. And then what happens is you give her the antibiotics, the infection is still in the line, and then it can come back again and again and again, potentially. And if that happens, if they cannot get rid of the infection out of her blood,
This is the scary part.
then they have to take the line out. And in removing the line, there's the potential collapse of the vein that they're using, or artery.
Yes.
I always ask that question.
I think it's intravenous. Makes more sense. Anyways.
But that access point could become unusable for a period of time. And then you have to go in and put a new line in somewhere else. And so that's a bummer. Both of those things happening is not great. It's not ideal because that means it's a surgery, it's a new location for a line, and the possibly meaning we won't have access to that same spot again.
And the scariest thing of all is if there's a lot of this happens multiple times, then we lose all the access points, which is terrifying because then we have to do the transplant.
Well, yes. Worst case scenario.
That's that's way far away. But still, that's why it's so scary. So
yes.
I just posted yesterday our 2 line infection videos that we had last year. They happened twice in a row, and thankfully both of them were not the sticky type. So we actually had a line break before we had a line infection. And ironically enough, even though a line break is way scarier because the line breaks and it bleeds and it's scary, the only real reason it's super scary is because it could become
a line infection.
A line infection, because the line infection is our not. I say biggest fear. Megan's like, quit being so scary. Yeah. What causes line infections, Megan?
It's hard to know. So the 2 line infections Dottie has had have been bacteria, basically from her bowel bacteria. And the 2 ways that she could have gotten that infection is externally from some contamination while we were prepping her line or in the bath or, something like that. Something getting into her line from her body or our bodies or the environment around. But with short gut, it is highly likely, very possible that her bowels, stuff that's supposed to be in her bowels, gets out into her body where it's not supposed to be. So she could get that same type of infection internally, and there is nothing we can do about that. We cannot combat what is happening in her intestines in that way. So we can only be as safe as we know how to be, and we practice sterile procedures when we do dressing changes. When we hook her up, we are clean, and we clean for our 15 seconds, and we let air dry for 15 seconds, and we're very particular about that.
Hand sanitizer, gloves.
We're the only 2 pretty much who hook her up or disconnect her or do her dressing changes. We don't even have a home health care nurse. I'm watching Dottie like crawl around.
I know,
Teddy's
so close, by the way. Like so close. Dottie was still afraid she's going to kick him, but okay.
Sorry, so I was a little distracted. We're the only people that do most of her cares, and part of that reason is because we know that we're going to be the most careful because it impacts
Vigilant.
us the most, because it impacts her the most.
Right.
Yeah, so we do what we can, but when it comes right down to it, the two line infections, though similar, were different. And I talked to every person I could talk to, and I was like, are we doing something wrong? Do we need to do something different? And everybody said the same thing, that there are two different infections. So that was a good sign, actually. And that since they were both gut bacteria, that it's just as likely, if not more likely, that it happened internally as to externally. And so to continue on, and the real show that it's not something we're doing is that thankfully she has not had a line infection since then. So really weird, we had 2 right in a row, 3 weeks apart.
That's weird.
But now we have gone like
March, almost
10 months without one, and so that's a good sign that those were internal issues and not external contaminations.
And that's why we've actually kind of limited those number of people who actually change her lines. It's not because we don't trust people, it's just because
we don't trust people.
I guess it's because we don't trust people. But even people we do trust, it's just nice to know we have so much experience doing this day in and day out. We know Dottie, and so we kind of know what that experience looks like. So it's not because of lack of knowledge, but just lack of experience with our daughter in our specific situation. Which I always encourage, if your parents, take things into your own hands as soon as possible. It was a game changer for us.
The parents that I talk to are similar to us in that the longer they've done it, the more they do it themselves, because they see that even trained nurses don't always clean the full 15 seconds or let dry the full 15 seconds. And it's our kid, and so we're gonna take hopefully the most care. And
I love she's like changing. She's like trying to put on the boot while she's telling you these instructions. And Dottie's crying.
well, she was crying. I was a little upset.
So there we go. That's our biggest fear, and we just kind of wanted to keep that conversation open because we're always thinking about that particular thing. Thanks for following, guys. If you guys have more questions or thoughts or some suggestions, feel free to let us know. Dottie's not excited about her boot. 2 more weeks though, and no more boot. Teddy bear with a real teddy bear. He's knockout.
Today's Teddy's 4-month birthday.
4 months.